All right, good afternoon, everyone. No, it's good evening. All right, it's past 5 o'clock. Good evening. This is the CSRN podcast. Today we have Making a Difference in Our Community with Brother Washington Muhammad. And as you know, CSRN, we started this journey 7 years ago with Jabril Bay, Mike Leonardi. They wanted to find a way to address and speak truth to power without being pastors, preachers, and politicians. And they put this thing together, Mike, called Community Solidarity Day. And they had regular people come out, speak, and then eventually start planning to do things. And 7 years later, here we are, 2020. Everybody took a hit. Everything went inside, including us here, where we had to do more things virtually. And we're getting back to doing more things in person. As you see, things are opening back up. I'm Brother Washington Muhammad, one of the co-founders of CSRN, and it's awesome to be a part of this journey. And with us today, all right, look, I know you normally might hear us talking about things going on in the community, with police, with other leaders in our community, and holding them accountable to the things that they were sworn to do. However, today we got our brother Mike Hood, candidate for Lucas County Commissioner. I've known this brother for quite some time. Not going to say too long, how long, because then I'm going to give away my age. All right. But I've seen him working in the community. I'm going to have him introduce himself to you, and all of us are trying to make a difference in making our community a safe and decent place to live. So, Mike, for the people that are watching this podcast or may stream it later on that may not know who you are, who are you, and why Lucas County Commissioner, and why now?
Yes. Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you for having me, and thank you to your listening audience. I first came into this as a community activist, seeing needs that need to be met within our community, and no one was addressing them. And I was like, well, why not me? And so I got involved as a community activist in many different areas, working with youth, whether it's in sports or just social events and things of that nature. And so it grew from there until I actually have been involved in an area in Spencer Township where I was raised. I've been involved there for the last 32 years, but basically half of my life. And I saw getting involved with the county commissioner's position as a vehicle of a way of helping our people to address issues that weren't being addressed by others. And that has become my passion until this day.
All right. So this is one of my questions that I ask everybody that loves humanity and wants to help. Okay. What was it that made you start caring about community? How did that start?
Interesting. Because I started, like I said, with the youth, but then I just started seeing the injustices that were going on in the community. Again, that no one was addressing. And I just felt the need and the urge to get involved and to be a voice for those that weren't being heard. And that's how I got into this business. I understand how a lot of times being politically active can be looked upon, because I looked upon it myself prior to coming into it. So I understand the skepticism that people may have when you're talking about things of a political nature.
All right. Now, one of the often repeated questions that I get is, hey, Brother Washington, why should I even vote? Does it even matter? What do we say when we hear, 'cause there's a lot of apathy toward politics right now. And everybody, people know me, and they know that, I'm just not going to be carrying the water for anyone.
Yes.
However, we have to get involved. So what do you say when you hear those types of things of, does it matter to vote? Why do it anyway? What does it matter anyway?
I would say the first thing we need to do is educate ourselves to the issues that are going on in our community. Quite oftentimes, we're manipulated or attempts are made to manipulate us. But the reason I would say to get involved was the same thing that Dr. King was marching for back in the 60s. Uh, it's a right as a citizen of this country. It comes by naturally by birth, and we do need to express it. It's our way of speaking out against things that are going on, community ills, or if we're dissatisfied with a political office holder. It's our way of letting them know that we either support them or we do not agree with the actions that they are taking.
All right, that's awesome. Now, lately when we launched this podcast, and I let some of the brothers and sisters in CSRN know and others, hey, they said, well, look, that's great to have Mike Hood on. Let's see about what he would say if we asked this. So there was a few things that we wanted to ask regarding homelessness or housing insecurity, as it's as it's called, and what it really is, because you can have a home today and not have one tomorrow.
Absolutely.
All right. So
Yes.
and none of us are free of that thing happening. We wanted to talk about the Lucas County Jail
Yes.
that they're building downtown, and what that's going to look like. In your role as commissioner, you've got a huge say so in that.
Absolutely.
And also they wanted to talk about, or we wanted to talk about, the war on drugs, the violence in our community, and just your thoughts as not only as a candidate but as a neighbor.
Yes.
So hey, let's start first with the violence in our community and the war on drugs. What is it, Mike, that you've seen that have made you want to speak out against the violence in our community and the pervasive drug problem that we have?
Yes. Well, I would like to, and thank you for asking that question. I would like to start with the problems in our community. And I just left a community event prior to coming here, and I told a story about the gaming preserve that was in South Africa, where they kept the elephants because they were being killed for their tusk and for their ivory. So they were put into a preserve to be protected away from the poachers. And so as time went on, the population began to become overcrowded. So they had an issue that they needed to remove some of the elephants and didn't know how to do it. So their plan came out to be, well, we'll just kill off some of the older bull elephants, and then we'll transport out the younger elephants. They were easier to transfer. And they did that. It was a government action. And so as time went on, those young elephants began to grow up and begin to mature. And they start becoming aggressive. They were being what they would call must, or coming into their own.
Yes, sir.
And so they started becoming violent. They had all this misplaced energy, not knowing what to do with it. And so, again, they started turning violent, and they started killing off some of the other animals that were in the gaming preserve. They had young groups of young elephants running around just terrorizing the other animals. So they brought in an expert, and he studied them to find out why they were doing that. And so he said, well, I think as time went on, I think I know what's causing this problem. And so they went and brought out, again, some of the older, more mature bull elephants and brought them back into the gaming preserve. And the younger elephants were trying to attack them like they were doing the other elephants. These elephants were 2 or 3 times the size of the smaller elephants. So they put them down. They weren't having that. And so order came back into the gaming preserve. So I tell that story. It's the same thing that's happened in the African American community. The bull elephant in this case was the black man that was removed from the household. And once that was done, we're now seeing the symptoms of that black man not being in that household. So people wonder what's wrong with our youth and why is there so much violence and so much is going on. And the study and shows that if that man is back in the head of that household, then order comes back into that family, and all that other nonsense begins to decrease.
All right. So how do we do that? I'm a father. I'm a husband.
Yes.
Man, how do we even start that process of repairing our Black men? How does in your mind, what are some of our first steps to achieving that?
Yes. And what you explained, I think the way it is just being there as men in our own families and being accountable to our families and to our spouse. Because this is a process that has happened over the last 50 or 60 years. And so I think it's very insightful when you said, how do we start the process?
Right.
Because it is a process and it's not going to happen overnight. But I think people like yourself and people like me even have already started that process. And to model that for other men, other young men, of this is how you expect it to act and to be a model to those individuals. Now, I'd also say in that is not a government issue per se, because if we go back and look at the historical narrative, we'll find out that government is the one that created that problem in our community in the first place.
All right. And ultimately, we've got some responsibility.
And we have personal responsibilities. Right. Absolutely.
You know, and I tell the story regarding what we have to do for ourselves.
Absolutely.
It's as if I was in an automobile accident and the person that hit me had no insurance and no job.
Yes.
Of course, I'm upset that my brand new Kia, all right,
absolutely.
Right. However, in the final analysis, I'm going to have to fix it.
Absolutely.
All right. Absolutely. And this is something that we preach, we teach, and to be a part of government, yes, we are going to need your help.
Absolutely.
All right. We're going to be requesting your help. However, we know that we're going to do the things that we need to do. And if we realize that the Lucas County Commissioner has the wherewithal to assist us in, if it's a youth program, if it's a young Black male initiative that's happening, you know, we would expect to see you there, to lend your voice, to lend your credibility. Those are the types of things that people like myself and others are doing in the community right now. And I think that's one of the reasons why we had the town hall today.
Absolutely.
To address some of those issues. And the town hall today wasn't sponsored by the Lucas County Commissioners or the Office of the Mayor. It was just ordinary people.
Ordinary people.
Realizing that we have to have this conversation.
Absolutely.
And when you have this conversation, you include and you attract people like yourself and others that once we come together and talk, you start hearing solutions and hearing some of our next steps. Hey, listen, we're going to take a short break. We're going to come back. We've got some other questions. And if you're viewing this, put something in the chat to let us know that you're seeing what we're doing and you like what we're doing. This is Making a Difference in the Community with Brother Washington Muhammad. This is the CSRN Network. We'll be right back. All right, we are back. We're back. This is the CSRN Network with Making a Difference with Brother Washington Muhammad. And I have the candidate for Lucas County Commissioner, our brother Mike Hood. Man, thanks for joining us. Yes. Thanks for joining us. And if you missed the first half, we're going to be streaming this on Spotify. It's going to be on YouTube, and you'll also be able to go to our page, CSRN Community Solidarity Response Network, and play it again and listen to the answers that he's given now. And if he gets elected, play these questions back, all right, to see just what he's going to do.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yes.
Listen, another thing that we wanted to talk about today is housing insecurity.
Yes.
The plight of the homeless. And there's a lot of initiatives right now to create some spaces or some residence opportunities for the homeless. Where do you stand on that? Do you believe that the homeless or those who have housing insecurity should be helped? Where do you stand on that, Mike?
Yes, I definitely believe there ought to be some assistance there. And again, if you look back over the housing issue, again, it's another issue that didn't spring up overnight.
Right.
It's been going on for quite some time. It hasn't been given the attention that it deserves. And so now, as it's reaching much higher levels, then people are starting to pay attention to it. But yes, I believe that funding is available through the city and through the county, through the American Rescue Plan. And as I explained at the town hall, now these are funds that are not a part of any budget. Most county offices, city offices, their budgets are set prior to the year, just as now we're in 2022, where the budget for 2022 has already been set. And so this money that came in, federal funding that came in, is not earmarked for anything. And so I believe hearings need to be held on the best way to spend that money. And definitely it should go towards housing insecurity.
Right. When they first announced that Recovery Act,
Yes.
and there was some discussions at different high schools and community centers in Toledo, we were there firsthand to hear those plans.
Yes.
And how it was going to roll out. 90% of it we didn't like.
Right.
And we're still going to be a part of that conversation of these funds could be used to make some substantial improvements in our community.
Absolutely.
But it's going to take some stronger voices than just Brother Washington.
Absolutely.
All right. It's going to take us as a community to talk about how these funds are going to be distributed.
Yes.
Who's going to facilitate that? And how do we pick who should receive the funding? Because most times, almost like I'm getting on my own soapbox right now, most times we have a network in Toledo that sometimes it appears that the same people are being funded, and some of us that have new, fresh ideas are overlooked. And I understand that you have to have a track record.
Yes.
But at one point, doing the same thing, expecting a different result, might make people think that it might be insanity.
Absolutely.
So we definitely welcome your new voice.
Yes.
In the county politics. We've seen you out in Holland. All right.
Yes.
We know you well.
Yes.
And I was driving through there the other day, and there's signs out Irwin and Door. All right.
Yes,
way out there. All right.
Yes,
that's far. All right.
Yes,
okay. My next question is, we talked about mass incarceration. That's big because during our weekly podcast, if you've seen our weekly podcast, we have our brother Omar Gent that's currently a confined citizen in Colorado, and he fights for justice for those who are incarcerated. And also we partner with some of the gentlemen and brothers at Toledo Correctional Institution that we try to get them on the podcast to talk about what's happening there and how they're going to change their lives when they're released, and still what's happening there. When you look at mass incarceration, for you, Mike, what are some of the first things that come to your mind, and what are some of your possible solutions for this?
Thank you for asking that question. And the way I process issues as they come about is I believe in always going back to the beginning or the root or the origin of how it all became that way in the first place. So we know we've had this thing that's called the public school system to prison pipeline.
Right, right.
So it starts with, it said even when we were in the third grade, they have people that are watching and monitoring young
Man,
people,
Mike,
and
man.
they're already saying, okay, little Jimmy or little Johnny,
Yes,
he's going
sir.
to be a problem later on.
Yes,
So even
sir.
before he becomes of age, they're already building a prison or some place to house him, even in his youthful years. And so we know that that's where it starts. And then I just believe that also that lesser violent offenses people should not be incarcerated for in the first place. They need to find another way of doing that, whether it's community service, paying back for the act that you have perpetrated on the community, to now volunteer in that community and be an asset in that community instead of a liability. I also believe that one of the things that's showing up now is mental illness, as you may be aware of. We just had a young
Yes,
lady
sir.
that died in the prison that should not have ever been there in the beginning.
That's right.
And even the sheriff had said that. But for him, I was saying, you don't get off the hook that easy because you're in charge of the jail. If she didn't belong there, you shouldn't have put her there. You should have found other accommodations for her. So I think that we need to find other ways to deal with offenders that may have mental issues other than incarcerating them. And that would greatly, I think, that and the nonviolent offenses will greatly reduce the incarceration.
All right. Look, I want to give a shout out to our mother emeritus, Sister Twyla Page. If you out here
Yes.
don't know Sister Twyla Page, then you should. She had posted that elections are very soon, and man, we need. She says we need to get your name out.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yes.
So that's like Sister Twyla telling me, Brother Washington, get on your job. All right. Thanks, Sister Twyla, for let me know in the most public way that I'm slacking and lacking.
Yes, sir.
And we will. This is and she also said that she can also wants to assist in that and making sure your name gets out, that people know that you're on the ballot, or we could write you in to make sure that our votes, our votes count. And thank you, Sister Twyla.
Thank you very much.
And she's part of the brother, excuse me, the Brother Washington Trinity. I always say that there's three people that I attribute who I am to.
Yes.
It's her, Coach Ben Williams,
yes,
and Minister Charles Muhammad.
Okay.
Those three are everything to me.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So,
They're pillars.
man, and I could not have had three better pillars than Sister Twyla Page,
Yes.
Coach Ben Williams,
Yes.
and Minister Charles Muhammad. And I really don't know if it gets better than that. If it does, God bless you. All right.
Yes.
Before we start to talk about the Lucas County Jail, and then after that, whatever, we're going to take a short break because there's an awesome program in Toledo called Brothers United. And I really, every chance I get, I want to promote that program. I want to promote Sister Avis Fowles and her staff that's doing an excellent job doing the things that we talk about. So there are people that are doing it, and I have to make the attempt of making sure that I promote them as much as I can.
Absolutely.
All right, one of the questions that I wanted to ask is about balance. We were having a study the other day, and we were talking about leadership and what makes a great leader. And one of the sisters had said, hey, listen, I think balance, some emotional balance from our leaders is needed. So for you, how do you stay balanced? Because, hey, you're running for office. You also have a livelihood, all right? And you've got a lot of irons in the fire. What do you do to bring yourself back on to center?
Back to balance.
Yeah, back to balance.
Yes. Well, I make sure that I set some time away for myself just to sit quiet and meditate on different things because at some point it does tend to get overwhelming. and you do have to get away and refresh yourself and reflect on the challenges of the day. And so that's one of the things that I do. But for the most part, I prefer to stay engaged. Because these issues for me are life issues, they're lifelong issues. And my thing that the funny part of it is coming out of the community, because I feel like I come from amongst the people. And so I am just here representing the things that I am hearing, the displeasure that I'm hearing for people in the community, and want to be here to speak to that and to hold public officials accountable as they should be to the people they claim to represent. And so it's that, and then my time I spend with God and other things. But that's basically how I stay balanced.
That's beautiful. Hey, family, if you haven't noticed already, there's a crawler going across the bottom of the screen. And if you like our podcast and if you want to support what we do, you can support us via Cash App. That's hashtag CSRN 419 and PayPal CSRN 419. This allows us to keep doing what we're doing. It allows us to level up on some of our equipment. And if you watched us from the beginning, when we just had a cell phone, all right, and somebody in a chair, it takes a lot of resources to do that. A lot of those things we absorb, but also we want to make sure our community can be able to participate in it. Hey, family, we're going to take a short break. We're going to come back with Mike Hood. We're going to show a short clip from Brothers United. So this is the CSRN Network, making a difference with Brother Washington Muhammad. We'll be right back.
Pathway Incorporated Brothers United program believes that children are important. Every day we support and advocate for fathers because when children have involved fathers, the whole community thrives. The fathers that come into the Brothers United program are mostly young fathers who are primarily gang members or drug dealers or those involved in lots of trauma from the time when they were youth until now. The program has fatherhood classes, which teach you about your role as a father, the importance of being a father, healthy relationships, how to co-parent and work better together with your co-parent, and then economic stability, how to get a job, how to keep a job. It is so important for fathers to learn to take care of their children holistically, not just emotionally, not just physically, but financially as well, because children need a holistic approach.
I really just needed help with really being a better father and looking for a job to be able to support my kids.
Some of the problems I was facing when I joined Brothers United was communication with my children. Had some time apart from each other for a while, so they gave me the tools to really get back in communication with them.
Fathers will come into our program with their heads down. 2 weeks later, their heads are up. 3 weeks later, they're laughing and talking. 4 weeks later, they're building a bond. And by the time we get to 8 weeks, they're saying, hey, we want to stay here. What can we do to stay connected?
It gave me a better perspective on how to look at things from other people's point of view. You know, sometimes us as men, we get caught up in being prideful and arrogant, thinking we don't need the help. We do. And we just have to put our pride, selfishness, and arrogance to the side. And when the help is there, take it.
Hope plays the most important role in everything that we do because we have to have hope. We have to remember that fathers are important, and we have to not only say it, but we have to live it, we have to breathe it, we have to do it, we have to convey it to everyone.
Let's get a BU Nation on 3, fellas. 1, 2, 3. BU Nation!
The dads give us hope. The dads supply for us on the days when it gets hard. On the days when we've seen more violence than we ever want to see. On the days when we've lost some dads to jail or to murder, they give us hope. And so the hope that lives can change, if you invest in them, if you believe in them, then lives can change.
Brothers United changed my life, let's say, because of where I come from, what I've been through. I learned to understand it is help out there. Don't be scared to ask for it. If you don't reach, you can't grab. That's it.
They made me more employable, more desirable by employers, which in turn helped me provide for my family and provide for my children and my grandchild. So it makes me a better man, a better father, and a better example.
It showed me like how to be better to my kids, so I went and got custody of my son. My son been with me for a couple months now. So this showed me how to be a better parent all around, just a better man, period.
Initially, I didn't know that it could change men's lives. I didn't know that fathers could change. But it's amazing to me when fathers come back a year later, 2 years later, and tell us thank you. Or they'll make a Facebook post and say, look at what I'm doing now. It's amazing to me about the level of work that we've been able to do and the lives that we've changed in just a short period of time. And the fathers who come back and say, thank you, I needed you, and you were there.
Shout out to Brothers United, man. Be you.
All right, we are back. We're back. This is the CSRN Network with Making a Difference with Brother Washington Muhammad. And we have with us today the candidate for Lucas County Commissioner. That is a long title thing, but I'll work with it. I'll make it happen. Hey, Mike, for everybody that's watching this whole podcast is being streamed using the Toledo Lucas County Library's hotspot. You can go to Mott Branch or Mott Conda, as we call it, or Kent Branch Library and pick one up. They are free, absolutely free. You will get no hassle at the front desk. Sign them out. If you don't have a library card, we'll get one for you right there on the spot. And it's 5G, 10 gigs. This whole podcast, everything, the cameras, everything is being streamed through this, and it's free. All right. So family, get on board, because if we don't take advantage of this, it might appear that it's not needed in our community. And it is, and I need to be asking them for a check. And these, they have great range. It's on the nationwide T-Mobile network, so you can take it anywhere and have Wi-Fi anywhere. The way that you check them out, 21 days, keep it 21. After 21 days, just call in and say, hey, look, reboot it. Keep it 21 more days, Mike.
Yes.
This is awesome.
That's great.
And
that's great.
Call in again. Mm-hmm. On the third time, just take it back, check it back out, and keep it pushing. Okay. It could not be easier. And there's no one I know that's more skeptical and cynical than me. All right. I will side-eye myself in a second. And this is the real deal. So go to Kent, go to Mott Conda, Mott Branch Library, get your hotspot. Get it now. All right. Closing out, Mike. And once again, thank you for being here, being a part of our platform. You being on our platform also elevates us.
Yes.
All right. So don't think that we're doing you a favor. All right. Really, you doing us a favor.
Thank you for
all right.
Me,
man, one of the big issues for the last couple of years was the Lucas County Jail. Where to put it? I was part of some of the conversations when they wanted to put it in one place.
Yes.
And everybody was like, I don't want to say hell to the no, but that's what they were saying in those meetings.
Absolutely.
So now it's downtown, all right, where I thought that it should be. Absolutely. There's space down there. Come on.
Absolutely.
Now. All right.
Absolutely.
Man, what are your thoughts on the new Lucas County Jail and the staffing challenges that they've had this year and last year and the year before? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, if I could, I'd like to start, like you said, when they first came up 4 years ago, when they were looking at where they wanted to put the new jail. And they were trying to put them in neighborhoods, and everywhere they tried to put it, it was rejected. I said then 4 years ago that I think it belongs downtown. That's where it's always been. No one wants a jail in their neighborhood.
That's
To
right.
be a neighbor to the jail.
That's right.
And so they spent 4 years and waste thousands of dollars doing studies to find out that the best place for it was downtown.
Where we told them.
Right, in the
All
first
right.
place.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. So the first thing, they got to become better listeners.
Teach.
And then the other thing is for staffing issues, as you brought up, the deputies that work in the prison and the other administrative people have to realize that this is just a job. And it's not something that they need to be taken personal. You don't bring your problems from home and take it out on the people that's being housed there, your frustrations. And so just realize this is your job, and then you go home. You're paid to do a job, and you're also, even though these people are incarcerated, you still have an obligation to keep these people safe.
That's right.
And so no one should be happening. I can recall incidents of a close friend of mine whose son was killed in the jail several years ago, and it was totally unnecessary and unwarranted back some 6 years ago or better. So just realize that it is a job. You're, as you said, you're not the judge, jury, and executioner. You're just there to maintain the order in the jail, and then to go home at the end of the day. And whenever the inmate is released, I'm sure he'd like to go home at the end of the day as well. So people need to have sensitivity training. You need to have cultural training if you don't know how to communicate with people, because we use different language and able to communicate.
That's right.
And so, like, for example, they said a lot of Caucasians, when they have communication with people, they believe in having eye contact. Where in the African American community, if you stare at somebody too long, they're like you.
Hey, we got a problem. Right.
Absolutely. So knowing that type of thing of how to communicate with a person will go a long ways as far as keeping trouble from starting up.
All right. Hey, Mike, I think that we went a little bit over our time, which was still an awesome conversation.
Yes, sir.
Oh, look, before we close out, if someone wanted to be a part of the Mike Hood movement and what you're doing, how would they contact you?
Yes. The best thing we can do right now, I have an email. It's MikeHood 057@gmail.com. I still have, that's my email. I'm having some glitches with the Facebook page, but I am working on that as we go forward. But through that email at this time is the best way to reach out to the campaign. I do have a GoFundMe page that's linked to that same email. I have a Zelle account that's linked to that email. And then for people that want to contribute, I also have a P.O. box. It's P.O. Box 443, Holland, Ohio, 43528. And we would appreciate anything. There's no donation too small.
All right. And also for those that may be watching this podcast or maybe streaming it later, you can also inbox us if you feel that, well, I don't know how to send the email to a P.O. box. Well, that's because you don't. All right. This is 2022.
Yes, sir.
So if you have any questions about Mike, is it okay if they inbox us and say, hey, look,
Absolutely.
How do we get to Mike Hood?
Please do.
So please do that. This is a good person. Someone that I believe that can make a difference in our community. So consider him along with all of the others, but consider him. Look, if he's strong enough to come here and have a discussion here, then this brother is strong enough to take the helm and improve our community. Hey, listen, I'm Brother Washington. This is Making a Difference in Our Community with Brother Washington Muhammad. And as always on the CSRN Network, all lives can't matter until Black lives matter. And Black lives can't matter until all Black lives matter. Justice or else, peace.